Hey, what's up, you guys? Here with Cole Anderson today. He's going to tell you a pretty exciting story about a big fish he caught, so stay tuned.
We've been acting out for days, nothing to deny. Blown up because echoes through the halls. You keep sleeping on the couch just to prove the point. I'm too proud to tell you when I'm wrong. Arguments spinning in circles, we're fighting for days, stuck in a phase. I think we're losing the reason.
So Cole, a few weeks back, you had a big fish that you caught, a pretty exciting story. So I'm gonna let you kind of tell everybody what it was like and just share your experience. So take it away.
So basically it started off a day before with Sam. I went out fishing early in the morning on one of the local lakes in Northwest Arkansas and had a pretty incredible start to the day. Caught a couple decent ones, lost a 6 and had an 8 swipe at it. Couldn't believe it. So I gave my friend Sam a call. We hooked up, headed back to the lake, and we ended up sticking a 22.5 pound bag. And that was, to this day, the biggest bag that I've had. So then moving on to the next day, decided why not, the fishing's good, might as well head back out and just try for a giant, maybe that 8 pounder that's still sitting around. So I left the house the next day, just blood's pumping and everything, really excited to get out on the water and just throw some big swim baits, hoping for another giant opportunity at a giant fish. Swung by the local tackle shop and just happened to pick up the Lucky Bait. It was a Big Bite Baits Suicide Shad, the 6-inch one with an 8/0 Beast Coast or owner hook, and got out there on the water. Wasn't anything irregular about the day, it was just sun was shining, birds are chirping, kind of regular stuff. Got the boat in and went to the spot, and it was a brush pile in about 16 feet of water. And just as I sat there and I was rigging up, I happened to look over the side of the boat, and for some reason there was a rope coming up just below the surface, and I figured that had to have been attached to the brush pile, and I had never fished here before. So get all rigged up and back off a little bit, fire a cast out way to the side, just kind of check everything, just get that one cast out of the way, because it's unlucky to get one on your first cast. And then I made a cast to the left of the rope and to the right of the rope. On that third cast, just to the right of the rope, I was bringing it through the brush pile, coming about to the end of it, and I could feel it, my swim bait just come up right over a log, and I just felt it falling, and it just kept on falling. Never felt a thump or anything. Line started moving just a little bit, and I picked it up, and I just felt the slightest, just little tick, and reeled down, set the hook as hard as I could, and I didn't really think it was a big fish at all. Kind of caught me by surprise. She swam straight up and came about, foot and a half out of the water, and really gave us a good show.
Did you have a heart attack at that point?
I pretty much did. There were some kids on the bank, and I started whooping and hollering a little bit, getting a little excited, but yeah, and then she dove back down, and I was just fighting her over the side of the boat, and I was out there by myself. So I grabbed the only net that I had on the boat, which is a trout net, that little guy right there, and she filled up the entire thing. It was absolutely surreal to be able to have a fish come up and net one that big and just see it right there. Caught me off guard for sure.
Did it fight as hard as you would think? I mean, once you knew how big the fish was, did it put up a 12-pound fight, so to say?
Not at the start. Not at the start at all. Definitely thought he was probably like a 2-pounder, 3-pounder or something whenever I set hook, because she came up so fast. And once I saw her and she saw the boat, she dove down pretty hard and put a bend in my rod like I've never seen. But besides that, I think she was just too big to really put up a long, enduring fight. But got her in the net and put her on the deck of the boat and got her unhooked, and immediately filled up the live well and threw her in, and sat down right there. And I just sat down there shaking a little bit, just trying to get a grasp on what just happened. But gave my mom a call, you know, let her know the story, and then I headed over to one of my friends' places on the lake.
And how big was the fish? What was the actual weight?
12.56. We went over and to this guy's dock, and he brought out a couple scales, and we weighed it on those, and it said a high 12. And so then I put it back in the live well. We got a couple pictures, and I went back to fishing, or actually fishing with him, and we didn't end up linking up with anything in that point. And then I dropped him off at the dock and had a little bit of time waiting for Daniel to get here and for Sam to come up and check out this, you know, amazing fish. In that time, decided why not, might as well go back to the brush pile and just see if there's something else sitting around. And so I quickly tied on a different suicide shad. Didn't want to lose the one that I caught it on, and couldn't believe it, but first cast, get about to the same point, just a little bit to the left of where I had caught that one, get about to the same point, and I just feel a thump. Set the hook, line just breaks clean. Couldn't believe it, but you know, I was still ecstatic for having that one, but you know, I guess that's kind of the thing that keeps me coming back out here, is just the thought of that very next cast after catching a 12.5. I got another bite on a big bait, and that easily could have been a 2-pounder, just like that 12.5 could have been a 2-pounder. But it's just kind of that unknowing when you get out there, and yeah, it was pretty exciting. But by that time, they showed up, all the guys were there, and you know, everybody was pretty happy. Got a few pictures and everything, and unfortunately, the fish didn't survive. So when I had unhooked her and put her back in the live well, after I'd called my parents, and I opened the live well back up, and unfortunately the live well was just full of blood. I'm guessing it's just since it was an older fish. I don't know if the blood wasn't clotting up, her blood wasn't clotting up as well, but I got her a good hook set just in the back of the mouth, and so she was seeming a little weak and stuff, but by the time I'd kept her in the live well for that long, and we had gotten pictures and everything, we spent a good almost 2 hours trying to revive her. It was thankfully to your parents that came down, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I know Cole, he tried everything he could. Releasing that fish back into the water was definitely something you wanted to do, and we did. We spent hours you know, trying to troll with the fish to get some water, you know, to kind of just revive it, and even fizz it, you know, anything that we thought could be what the fish might need.
Putting some weights on its fins and
for sure.
stuff. Yeah, really,
you know,
just try to get her right side up, but that was kind of the biggest problem, I think. You know, also something that I could have taken into account was that, you know, fish that big in a live well, and even though I do have a decent sized live well, it takes a lot of energy out of them just to kind of keep their balance in there and keep floating and keep straight up. But by the time we had taken pictures and everything, she was sideways in the live well, and spent all that time trying to revive her, and she just didn't make it. And sometimes that's kind of the harsh reality with some of these bigger fish. Once they get to that size, catching them, you know, there can be a lot of the smaller things can make a lot bigger of a difference in their survival and just how they, you know, how well they do, how the release goes. But yeah, so, you know, kind of from an outside perspective, you know, I appreciate that you let us all come and partake in that day, because I know that's a monumental thing. And you know, definitely in Northwest Arkansas, you don't see or hear very many people catching a 12-pound, you know, plus fish in this area. You know, that fish was old, probably been around for many years. You know, just from an outside, you know, whenever I got the call saying, hey, you know, my friend Cole, he's caught this giant fish, can you come out and take some pictures for him? You know, and they sent me a picture. You know, when I seen it initially, I was thinking, oh, you know, that might be like a 9. I'm gonna tell you, when I walked up on the boat that day and you looked in here and that thing filled, you know, 3/4 of this live well, I was like, holy cow, this is huge. There's more fish in the live well than there was water.
It was so big, you know. But you know, I do appreciate you letting me come out here and seeing it. You know, I don't know in this area when the next opportunity that I'll ever see a 13, you know, almost 13-pound caliber fish. So it was pretty incredible.
I mean, when anybody catches a fish like this, it catches even a decent sized fish, a 6-pounder, you know, everybody's stoked all around. It wasn't just me that caught the fish that day. There was a lot leading up to that, from friends, family, fishing partners. You know, there's so much that they had, you know, taught me or supported me through, that it really helped out with just kind of keeping me going. And, you know, maybe had I not, you know, went out with the day before and had such a great day, you know, I could have just given up and stayed inside and stayed warm that day. But thankfully, you know, got enough people around me. I don't know.
That's pretty awesome.
So out on that day, I basically just had one rod on the boat. Since I was out there just throwing big swim baits, it was the only rod that I needed. I stuck with G Loomis IMX Pro 1/2 to 3 ounce rod with a Shimano Corrado K, a 6.2 gear ratio. I feel like that's a good, you know, I've only got one swim bait rod. Going with that 6.2 gear ratio just kind of gives you the ability to, you know, slow crawl some bigger soft plastics kind of thing, or, you know, still be able to fish glide baits, bull shads, things like that. Line that I was using, a Brazex 20-pound fluorocarbon. Some of the better line I've found, you know, it really holds up. I like skipping docks a lot with baits like this, or, you know, like skipping a smaller HUD under docks, and just being able to not have to worry about the pilings nicking your line nearly as much is a big thing for me whenever I'm trying to choose line. So what I was throwing that day was a 8/0 owner belly weighted screw lock hook. I got the screw lock off of this one just because I've been banging it off the docks, but I put on that Big Bite Baits Suicide Shad, the 6-inch. I didn't really have any prior experience with this bait. I had just picked it up from the bait shop beforehand that day, and it was the only big soft plastic swim bait that they had. But after seeing it in the water, I was pretty impressed with the action. It had a nice body roll to it and a good kick on the tail. So whenever you're just grinding it slow on the bottom, it's still got quite a bit of action. But that's basically the setup that I used, and yeah. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed. If there's one thing that I can leave you with at the end of this video, is that those bigger fish are in your lake. If not a 12.5, a 10, or an 8. One of the best things that I've found to find and catch some of those bigger fish are big swim baits. It's something new that they've seen, and believe me, they do eat it. Even those 3-pounders, you'll get them hitting 8-inch baits. I'd say just build confidence in it. You know, bring, like I do a lot of times, is I'll bring one rod out on the boat, just my swim bait rod. So I have no choice other than to build confidence and familiarize myself with that bait's actions, how my rod feels, what it feels like when you bump it over a log, anything like that. I think was kind of a key to the success that I had. But hey, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys go catch a big one.
We've been acting out for days, nothing to deny. Blown up because it goes through the halls. You keep sleeping on the couch just to prove the point. I'm too proud to tell you when I'm wrong. Arguments spinning in circles, we're fighting for